Can we get to the main event? That's what everybody wants to hear about.
Let's do it.
For the WWE title, and they did another great package, and then Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. And did you like the way they sent Roman out first, and they attributed it to the champion's prerogative? He came out first so that Sami Zayn would have to stare into he came out first because they knew that they could milk the crowd, Sami coming out second for 10 minutes, and they did. This was great. They milked his music so the crowd would start singing. And then when they played the music, the crowd was singing that song, and they sang it forever. And the crowd was ballistic, from the time Sami comes in the arena, gets in the ring. The introductions. Why do they have a 25-year-old female ring announcer? I miss Howard Finkel. I even miss Gary Capetta.
I miss announcers that didn't have to do this. The universal, like that. They all do that now.
Especially 25-year-old girls.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, they're good. They're good.
It doesn't.
Does she need a mustache? We get Emi Sakura. Will that make you happy?
It would make me happier if she had a mustache. Yes. And a long beard down to her crotch. Just something that a bunch of fucking old bastards smoking cigars around ringside from the Athletic Commission. Let's make it look like the good old days.
Yeah, everyone's dressed like Burt Sugar.
Yeah, Burt Randolph Sugar to do the weigh-in. But anyway, it went minutes. Fuck you, Roman, the chants and the singing. And neither guy got in a hurry, and they let the crowd do the work. And then I got a tickle that spread through my whole body. It started down low and then continued to grow. When they locked up, the crowd popped on the lockup and booed Roman Reigns' headlock. That was what the crowds were like in the 70s. Not even just the main event. If they had ever seen the babyface before, if they'd ever seen him on TV or he'd ever appeared live, and it was the second match on the card or whatever, when they locked up, the people would cheer, and whoever took control, they would boo or cheer. And I haven't seen it in a long time, but the people of Montreal, God bless you all. And they took their time at the first because the crowd was popping on headlocks and elbows. And then Sami hit one of his flip dives to take Roman off his feet out on the floor, and the place fucking blew up. And then Roman took over, as he should have, and the theme of the match again was he's abusing and belittling the smaller underdog babyface, and Sami Zayn can sell almost like Ricky Morton. That's one that you saw, not only the body language, but the facial expressions. He looks like he's toast. And he sells like a fucking crash test dummy, but not in a out of control way. But that's Zayn's biggest deal as a babyface wrestler, is he can sell. And Reigns is such a great heel, and he fucked with the crowd, and he taunted them and taunted Sami and took his time, talked trash to Sami's wife, threw him out in front of her and toyed with him in front of her.
Hey, just in general, at this point and at various other points, you didn't feel at all like they slowed it down too much? Like there was too much of the time of Roman doing the talking at various points?
In the finish, I'll get to that, because I'm still a bug about that in the finish, when the finish takes for fucking ever and the clock's running on a referee bump or whatever. But here, no, because they were working for those people, and it was a special reaction they were getting, and for those people, that was the pace. Now, I can see where it may have gotten a little either slow, or we've seen it for the television viewer, but I think for the atmosphere that they were in, that kind of crowd and them being so interested in everything, you can kind of take the time to just, Roman walks around and has that look on his face, and you can see it on the big screens, even if you can't see it in the giant arena from the back row, but I think it was good for that. Now, if they'd been in Los Angeles and the people had been going, okay, we got to make dinner late, then they needed to speed up at that point. I'll agree with you there. And I like the stuff with the wife because she actually had a game face on and looked like she was concerned.
She looked like, if you had to guess if she was smartened up or not, she probably is, obviously. She definitely is. But you could lose yourself in thinking she wasn't.
Exactly. So she did a good job. And then suddenly Sami got a hope spot with a clothesline, and he started to come back and clothesline Roman over the top. And they had a fight on the floor, and Sami runs over and kisses his wife, goes the top. Roman stops him, goes for a superplex, but Sami fights out and hits that sunset flip power bomb and gets a 2 count. And then Roman will stop him again. And he gets a couple more 2 counts. But it was, again, they put this together so wonderfully that each time Sami had a flurry of hope, it was a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then they did that point where Sami leapfrogged the spear and schoolboyed him, got a 2 count. And Sami Northern Lights him, or Exploder as they call it these days, over into the turnbuckles and hit a Superman punch and a haluva kick. And Michael Cole, do you believe in miracles? So he's a hockey fan. But they 2 7/8 on that, and it was a big fucking pop. And I wrote here, these false finishes have been great. I bet Heyman enjoys it when he can put a match together with guys that can actually do more than their 3 big moves, like the Brocks and the Lashleys and the high impact stuff he has to do. Anyway, Roman would keep trying to go for shit, but he would miss something or foil himself. He speared the barricade instead of Sami, and Sami got him back in, hit a blue thunder bomb for a 2 count. But it wasn't like that Sami was at any point manhandling Roman Reigns. He was taking advantage of situations and hitting these things, but Roman would still physically, take over, impose his will, whatever. And then they crushed the first referee in the corner, old Rudy Charles. They call him what is his real name? The Dan Engler. He was Rudy Charles in TNA. Great kid, but they crush him in the corner. And then Sami hits the kick and covers Roman, but there's no referee to count. And the fans get to count 3 and past, for him. And then Jimmy Uso appears and gives Sami 3 super kicks and a splash off the top and puts Roman on top and jumps out. Second referee comes in. I'm like, okay, but 1, 2 count, big pop. I'm like, okay, there's still life left in the old ginger after all. And they get back in a match, and Sami's looking good, and Uso comes back up to the apron again. Sami nails him off, turns into a spear. Roman covers him, another 2 count, another big pop. Pat Patterson has come back. They're really pulling out all the stops. And then Roman starts slapping Sami around and trash talking him and goes for the Superman and takes out the second referee with the Superman punch, which, by the way, there had been a little foreshadow of that when it looked like either Roman thought he was going for it or the referee thought he was going for it one time before, and they almost did it. But nevertheless, then Roman hit the Superman on Sami, and everybody was down. And this is where I start, Brian, I see what you were saying earlier, I apply it to here. Now, our first referee's been down for a while. And honestly, I thought, and would find out later on I was mistaken, that referee number 1, Rudy Charles, a.k.a. Dan Engler, had been taken from ringside because he was injured. And now the second referee ran down, but he got Superman punched, so now the referee's out of the picture again. This is where reasonably the clock is ticking. Reasonably. And in most cases, if you don't get your shit done pretty quick, then people start going, oh, come on, bullshit. However, in this situation, the story has been so good. Everybody else has been so into it. They wanted to see what was happening. So this is one of those exceptions that proves the rule, in that I thought it was going way too slow, but the people still stuck with it. But at this point, Heyman gets a chair and gives it to Roman. But then Jay suddenly appears, Jey Uso, in the middle of the ring, in between Sami, who's down, and Roman, who's got a chair in his hand, going to kill him. And Roman and Jay go back and forth. Roman hands Jay the chair, and Jay don't want to take it, but finally he does. And then as Roman walks over to trash talk Sami, it's a tease by the positioning, if nothing else, and this was very well done, that he might hit Roman in the back with the chair, like Sami did, and you heard the people coming up. And I wrote at that time, of course, one of these referees would be up by now, or another one in, but people are at least interested in this. So Roman finally takes the chair back and pie faces Jey Uso a couple times, like, what the fuck's the matter with you? You don't want to do what I tell you to do. And Roman, at the same time as he turns around to go back to Sami, and Jey Uso is coming behind Roman from being pie-faced because he's going to bow up, Sami runs, Roman ducks, and Sami spears Jey Uso. And at that point, Roman grabs the chair, or has the chair, and hits Sami like 6 fucking times across the back with the chair, and then hits a spear. And that's where I was. The first referee, Rudy Charles, a.k.a. Dan Engler, he comes back in. He's had to have been down at ringside for 10 minutes. People been in car wrecks. They've had heart attacks and got back to their feet in quicker time. That, again, nobody cared because this was so good and everybody was into it, and it's Montreal, and for all the reasons we've talked about. But goddamn, they've already run another. Couldn't they have run another one at least down where it didn't call attention to the fact that this guy regained consciousness after 10 minutes at the exact wrong moment? Just the little things.
I'll tell you what, on that topic, keep this in mind as you finish your review. Where did Jey Uso go?
Well, that's another thing. We didn't see a lot of Jay after that, did we?
He just vanished.
He just vanished.
Where did he go? Where did he come from, and where did he go?
Oh, where are you tonight? Why did you leave me here all alone? I searched the world over, and I thought I'd found true love. You met another, and you was gone.
We were so close to the end of the show without a singing segment, but
that's why I had to get it in. So anyway, at that point, boom, the match is over. 1, 2, 3. Jimmy Uso then at Roman's direction gets on Sami Zayn, starts beating him up. Jay has disappeared. We still don't know what's going to... The fallout from this will be, it's a fluid situation. And then suddenly, Kevin Owens music. And the other Montrealer. Montrealian? Montrealite?
Quebecer.
Well, what if you live in fucking Montreal and not just in... Well, I guess it's the whole province.
That's the heart of Quebec, I get. Well, Quebec City, may argue, but Montreal.
Well, it seems like Quebec City would have... Well, nevertheless, we're splitting hairs now.
They call you a Carpentier.
Yes, here comes a noted Carpentier, Kevin Owens. And he drops Jimmy in the aisleway, and he tackles Roman in the ring, and he hits a stunner on him. And then here comes Jimmy, and he stunners Jimmy. And he powerbombs Jimmy through the desk, and he gets a chair, and he goes after Roman Reigns. And as Roman is down, he's got the chair. Here comes Paul Heyman from behind. They are unloading all the stops to make these people as happy as possible that Sami Zayn did not win this title, but they still saw everything they wanted to see. That Paul is going to get involved for the first time in recent memory. And he did funny comedy punches. And I'm saying, I know and I know somebody probably told him to do it. Again, Paul and I, we share a lot of common traits, but Paul could never work. Paul Heyman could never physically work. He couldn't take bumps. His offense looked like shit. That's the one thing he never got about the wrestling business. And there's no shame in that. But I always went under the assumption that I should look like I'm trying as hard as I possibly can to hurt this person. As a manager, I'm talking about, and I was ineffectual because I'm weak and he's a big professional wrestler. But I should still look like I'm trying to hit him hard. And then I get the shit kicked out of me. Paul's doing the comedy stuff like, wah, 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 wah. Nobody would really do that, even somebody that was a big pussy. So does it take the people out of the moment? Couldn't he have come with one attempted broad arm across the back like, I'll save the day, whack, and fucking Owens just do the slowly I turned, and then Paul shit himself? I'm asking you.
If you're going to get Paul to be physical, I think you save it for when when the wise man would absolutely have to jump in, and if he did, he would probably try with all of his might with one punch or something, not whatever those little girl punch. I hate that. I don't want to be sexist there, but
no, that is punches. Sexist because girls do hit harder than he was hitting. And it wasn't like he was trying to work and couldn't. He was obviously doing the funny punches. So I guess somebody got in the locker room, got a kick out of it. I don't fucking know. But nevertheless, Owens no-sold it. And dropped the chair and looked at him and booted him and gave Paul Heyman a stone cold stunner. And bless his little heart. You know, there's several times I've taken stunners over the last, since it became a thing. Took some from Brandon Baxter down in Memphis and a time or two on independent shows 15 years ago or whatever. I can't drop to both knees either because I have two bad knees. And it requires you to do that, or you can do like Paul did and modify it and go down to your left knee while you're still on your right foot so you can push yourself back up, which is what I would do. And that saves the shock on your knees. But then Paul stood up and started waving his arms in the air and started falling over sideways. And somewhere between 3 and 5 seconds after he had taken the stunner is when he landed on the mat, and he didn't even make a noise. How did he fall?
You know what that was?
Even in that manner, without making a noise on the mat.
Who was Paul's favorite manager growing up?
Albano?
How did Albano sell?
Oh, shit.
Think about it. That's exactly what Heyman did.
Oh, boy. Well, boy, howdy. He's taking his bump for this decade. Paul, from me to you, I swore him off. What was it? 5 years ago now. And you should too, if that's what you got in you. But anyway, then Kevin Owens was in the middle of the ring. Sami was on one side. Roman was on the other side in the corners. And Kevin steps out of the way and lets Sami charge across with the haluva kick on Roman. And Owens walks out because they still haven't hugged and kissed and reconciled. And I'm being a picky prick about the, as a wrestling finish, it would have gotten panned years ago because people would have seen through the referee being down too long and et cetera, et cetera. But as a sports entertainment finish, and people accept these things now, this was fucking great. They saw everything they needed to see. Sami was in every way protected while Roman still did not lose. But they got a good match out of it and a really good finish with a bunch of twists and turns before they did it, not like when they just cheated people out of everything with Brock and Lashley. So I again, that's what's been paying the bills and carrying the ball over there at the WWE, the Bloodline and Sami. And now that we have established that Sami and Cody are great friends and bosom buddies, and Cody was pulling for Sami, I'm sure Sami will return the favor and pull for Cody, won't he?
Cody will get Owens and Sami to be friends again.
There you go. There you go. And we're off to see the Wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. There you go. That was Elimination Chamber.
Let me ask you a few things about the main event and the finish of the main event, because it's been somewhat controversial online, various fans with various things. Is there a fucking plane going by? I guess so, or a spy balloon, I'm not sure. But
did you piss off the Chinese again?
Quite about that. Any issue at all, any issue with Sami not going over in Montreal, considering that crowd and everything?
Oh, good God, no.
Because a lot of people, I mean, again, it's online and it's wrestling fans, but we're talking about reactions to things. A lot of people lost their shit over the fact that Sami has not won this, didn't win the title and didn't win in Montreal.
If they ever thought he was going to, then they don't know how the business works and they're insane to begin with. They weren't going to, no. In some other situation, I'm not saying they wouldn't have, they put the belt on Kofi Kingston for fuck's sake at one point. But no, not when they had the most dominant heel of modern times champion that has been a champion for the past 3 years or whatever the fuck it's been, and is heading toward a showdown with the guy that they have handpicked to be the big star of the entire company, not just the shows in Montreal, Cody Rhodes. Roman Reigns was not going to do he wasn't going to have dinner before dinner. He wasn't going to do a job before he does job. And again, if this was the territory days, if this had been Lawler in Memphis or Dusty in Tampa or Vern in Minneapolis or whatever the case, and Montreal was the biggest city or one of the biggest cities in the territory, and you had a guy that got over like that and got that reaction, then you make the moment. And then you put the belt on the guy in his hometown in the big crowd when that's one of the 4 or 5 cities you run. But they're talking about the entire world. And as much as everybody does like Sami, fans, he's over with all the fans everywhere from Maine to Spain on a choo-choo train. But he doesn't get the same reaction in every other town he gets in Montreal, obviously. And they weren't going to screw up well over a year of planning and preparation to install the guy they want to be the top babyface for the entire world, because Sami got over in this way and has an especially hot crowd in his hometown. So that would have been a great moment in Montreal and a great memory in Montreal, and it would have screwed up the plans they have going forward for months for the entire rest of the fucking world. Does that make any sense now?
There are people who think that WWE should have changed plans, called an audible, whatever it is, in recognition, I guess, for how over and how special a moment it is right now for Sami in Montreal.
Well, those people would be idiots, and I don't want them in charge of my fucking investment accounts.
Did you think they were going to do a Dusty finish when the first referee went down and the second one came in?
No, by the Dusty finish, you mean somehow Sami wins and then it's nullified.
Correct. The people get the big pop and the big celebration, and then a few minutes later, they get deflated with the news.
No, because that would still have required Sami Zayn to pin Roman Reigns for any type of referee, one on duty, off duty, part-time, whatever the case, to count 3, and that wasn't ever going to happen. That can't happen. Sami can lay on top of him all day long with no referee counting, which is what they did and what they got. But nobody will count Roman Reigns' shoulders to the mat before WrestleMania. I don't know how many different ways I can say this to people. That's what they want to do for the benefit of the entire company and in front of the entire world going forward with the plans they have. And they're correct in those plans. And yes, they would have loved it if Sami'd won the belt in Montreal, and the people watching at home would have got a kick out of it too. But then, where do you go from there? If you beat him right back, then the people just go, eh. And then Roman drops it to Sami, he's already dropped it, or drops it to Cody, he's already dropped it to Sami. So either Cody would have to beat Sami, or Sami would have to hold it for a fucking year. And does anybody think that Sami Zayn needs to be the WWF champion for a fucking year? No. So,
do you think the idea of Sami and Kevin Owens versus the Usos at WrestleMania, do you think they can get there with an intriguing story as they continue things? And what do you think about the idea that all members of the bloodline could lose their belts on the same night? Or part of the same 2 nights, I guess.
Well, in the same weekend or part of the same group of festivities. That does sound like, but at the same time, I don't know whether I wouldn't even be happy with and Cody reuniting the former friends and and getting them to shake hands. That's a great idea that you just mentioned. Could it be Jimmy and Solo against Kevin and Sami? Because we might still not know what Jay is going to do or not do, and it doesn't have to be for the title because it's goddamn personal issue.
Any disappointment at all in the way they use Jey Uso here? And the way things are still up in the air with him?
Well, him disappearing after... Why did he jump in the ring if he wasn't going to do anything to anybody? What was his intent? And why did he get his mind changed? I mean, he got speared, but then he's gone forever. So I don't know. I like the involvement in that we didn't know what he was going to do, but then when he didn't actually do anything, I'm not sure that, and then you never saw him again. That's kind of a lazy way out. Now that you put a spotlight on it.
Well, that was WWE Elimination Chamber